Reproductive embryology, genital embryology. All right, so for genital embryology, I can't stress how important this page is to fully understanding the background information so that you can later on understand what's going on in the pathologies associated with this, okay? So first and foremost, we have the female and the male. In females, this is our essentially default development, all right? So we are all originally born as females, and then there's different processes that form that lead to the essentially regression of the female organs and the production of male organs instead. All right, so let's start off with the female organs. The female organs are known as the Paramesonephric ducts or the Müllerian ducts, okay? The way that I think of Müllerian, M is Müllerian, which is for mother, okay? And that's for females, all right? So remember both those names. They like to use them interchangeably. Paramesonephric and Müllerian ducts are the ducts that are found in the female. It's the female internal structures like the fallopian tubes, the uterus, and the proximal vagina. Everything that's inside the female due to a reproductive standpoint is because of the Paramesonephric and Müllerian ducts, all right? Now, what happens when you have a male is that they have the Y chromosome. And on the Y chromosome, they have a gene known as the SRY gene. The SRY gene is going to tell our body to produce testes determining factor, okay? And that is going to form our testes. And in our testes, we have two cells. We have our Sertoli cells and our Leydig cells. And these are very important because they interact with our Paramesonephric and Müllerian ducts. Our Sertoli cells are going to secrete Müllerian inhibitory factor, MIF, okay? And essentially that suppresses the development of our Paramesonephric Müllerian ducts in the male, okay? So we're not going to form the internal female genitalia because we have Sertoli cells secreting Müllerian inhibitory factor, okay? Also a part of the testes, we have the Leydig cells. The Leydig cells, on the other hand, are going to secrete androgens, and those are going to start to stimulate the development of our mesonephric ducts. And the mesonephric ducts, they're also known as the Wolffian ducts, all right? And the Wolffian ducts develop into the male internal structures, like the seminal vesicles, the epididymis, the ejaculatory duct, and the ductus deferens. All right, so that's the internal reproductive organs of the male. So the Sertoli cells say sit down to the Paramesonephric Müllerian ducts, and the Leydig cells say, let's go, to the Mesonephric Wolffian ducts. So S, Sertoli cells, says sit down to Paramesonephric, the female. And Leydig cells say, let's go, to the Mesonephric, the male. Okay? And that all occurs due to the fact that males have the Y chromosome, which has the SRY gene, okay? And the SRY gene produces testes determining factor, leading to testes development, which forms Sertoli cells and Leydig cells. Sertoli cells secrete the Müllerian inhibitory factor, MIF, to suppress the development of it, and the Leydig cells secrete androgens to stimulate the development of the mesonephric ducts. Okay? So, does that make sense to everyone? Paramesonephric Müllerian ducts is the internal female reproductive organs, and the Mesonephric Wolffian ducts is the internal male organs. The male is going to start off as a female, and then the Y chromosome with the SRY gene is going to tell it to say, hey, stop. We're going to form testes, which have Sertoli cells that says sit down to the Paramesonephric Müllerian female ducts, and they're going to have Leydig cells, which say let's go, which secretes androgens, which forms the Mesonephric Wolffian male reproductive ducts. All right? Now, there's multiple pathologies associated with this whole process. The first pathology is going to be Müllerian agenesis. Okay? Müllerian agenesis is going to have everything normal except for the uterus. All right? So, you have the ovaries, right? Because the ovaries are not a part of the formation of the Paramesonephric or Müllerian ducts. So if we have Müllerian agenesis, you still have ovaries. So primary amenorrhea is going to occur with an absent uterus, though. They're going to have blind vaginal pouch, but they're going to have normal female external genitalia, and they still will have secondary sexual characteristics. Why does that make sense? Well, the female will still have estrogen being pumped around in the human body. So she still will have primary, normal external genitalia, okay, because of the estrogen that's flowing around, and she will still have normal secondary sexual characteristics because of the estrogen floating around. But the only thing that they won't have, or the only thing that will be abnormal, I should say, is that they will lack the Müllerian organs, okay? The organs that are produced by the Paramesonephric ducts or the Müllerian ducts because it's Müllerian agenesis. So you're going to have a lack of a uterus. But that means they're going to have blind vaginal pouch and ovaries, but they'll lack the fallopian tubes and the overall uterus and proximal vagina, okay? So that's the first pathology associated with the Müllerian agenesis. All right, so keep that in mind. You're going to have normal estrogen levels and testosterone levels because you have normal ovary functions, but you have absent uterus. All right? We'll talk about the other pathologies later on, but you have to know this whole entire process to understand the pathologies.